Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 1 of a brand new review series called, as you'll have seen from the title, Random Reviews. And as the name suggests, this series is for just random vehicles, and the production schedule of this series is also going to live up to the name. There is no set schedule for this video. It's not going to be a weekly thing. Some weeks you might get one, some weeks two, some weeks none. Who knows? Now, I've got quite a few cars that are going to be in this series, around 20 or so, and I originally considered having this as a continuation of the Dark series. I know a lot of you guys have specifically made it vocal that you would like to see more episodes of the Dark series, and that's not necessarily something that I'm ruling out, but the parameters of this series don't quite fit in with the Dark series, because the Dark series is for vehicles which people often don't buy but are actually good competition machines. This series is for vehicles which aren't necessarily competition cars. They're just cars which you wonder about buying but don't really want to waste the money unless you know that it's going to be an interesting or good vehicle to buy. Cars which are in a category of their own, such as this, the Jay Leno Tank Car. This is a completely unique car on Gran Turismo. There's nothing else quite like it on the game. It has the looks of an ancient vintage car, but it's actually relatively new. It's a custom from the ground up, and it's powered by, as the name suggests, a tank engine, a 29.3 litre naturally aspirated V12, which is obviously front mounted. It drives the rear wheels, and this car holds a number of in-game records. It's the heaviest car in the game. It has the largest engine capacity in the game, and as far as I'm aware, it has the second highest torque output of any car in the game. Interestingly, not first though. You'd probably expect it to be first with such a large engine. I'm not going to tell you guys what is actually the highest torque output of any car in the game. Some of you may already know, and it's quite surprising if you don't know what it is, but it will be in a future episode that I'll elaborate on that. However, this car is pretty expensive. It's 1.9 million credits, and for that kind of money you need to know beforehand to some degree whether or not it's worth it. Now for me personally, and if you're anything like me, I don't really care what this car is like in a race. I just see it and immediately love it. I love this car ever since I first saw it on Gran Turismo 4, and I had to own it. That was the only reason why I did any of the mission races, because I wanted this car. I've always loved the crazy cars of Gran Turismo, like the Renault Espace F1 from Gran Turismo 2. That is the single car which I want to come back to Gran Turismo more than anything else. However, what does the tank car have to offer? From, of course, a performance point of view, but also in its own little way. We already mentioned the engine. It produces 931 horsepower with an oil change, weighs in at 3.5 tonnes, so the power to weight ratio isn't that impressive. It's 266 horsepower per tonne, which is lower than a hot hatch. But what do you expect? The torque figure, as I said, is the second highest in the game at a colossal 1,656 pound-feet. And the torque is actually one of the problems with this car. It has so much torque that it just wheel spins very, very easily, primarily off the line. However, of course, racing soft tyres do help with that a lot. The main piece of advice that I'd give you if you own one of these cars and are looking to improve what it can do, because unfortunately for any who don't know, you cannot upgrade this car, which is a real shame because it has so much potential. It has a top speed of only 170 miles per hour, which is a real shame because it doesn't slow down at that speed because it lacks the power. It slows down because the gearbox is restricting it. And I guarantee, if we could fit the custom gearbox, you could easily get over 200 miles per hour out of this car. Easily. Well beyond that, in my opinion. Now, as it happens, the acceleration's a lot quicker than you might think. I've timed this car on Special Stage Route X, and it actually hits 60 miles per hour in a pretty impressive 3.9 seconds, which is seriously rapid for such a heavy car. It'll even hit 100 miles per hour in 9.5, which is still pretty impressive, and it does the quarter mile in around 12 seconds, which is pretty impressive for a 3.5 tonne monster. Now, from a competition point of view, it is capable of being a competition car. The PP is relatively low at 539 for a car of its power. And I actually did use this car in career mode to win the Tour of America series. And that included this track where I beat Vipers, Corvettes, etc. So the car is capable of winning races. It's just the fact that you can't tune anything on it apart from the tyres, oil change, ballast, obviously restricting the power, and the brake bias. Now, speaking of brake bias, that's the one thing I would strongly recommend that you change on this car. Give the car much more brake bias toward the rear. You'll find it makes the car stop a lot quicker, because the brakes are this car's biggest downside. They feel like milk bottle tops trying to stop a car that weighs as much as a planet. So overall, it's certainly not the kind of car which you'd enter the Le Mans with anytime soon, but it's an interesting alternative to the other cars in the game. So that's it for this first episode of the series. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.